All right. Addiction, mental health, cat pee, and divorce. We're going to talk about all this with Amanda, and you'll never guess what Amanda does. She's a realtor, and but she deals in divorce and real estate. Amanda, say hi to everyone.
Hi.
And we're also going to talk about how realtors can hurt families in the divorce process. How one spouse barricaded herself in, and all the various things people do to sabotage the sale of their home in a divorce. That on the next True Law Stories. But of course, this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best ways to promote your business is through customer stories. Go to videocasestory.com, learn how we can collect, craft, and deliver your stories. All right, let's get started. People get crazy when it comes to their homes and divorce, don't they?
They certainly do. And yes, I mean, the house represents so much. And then once people begin the divorce process or they get farther into it, yes, it can really create some havoc and people will do crazy things over the house.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, it's a compound thing. Like, 'cause I know people are crazy about their house, and we've talked to plenty of divorce attorneys, and people get irrational into divorce. So it's like putting that all together. Woo. But, tell me how you get involved in it, because tell me a little bit more about your business.
Yeah, so most frequently I am brought in by by an attorney. I have relationships with around 55 different family law attorneys locally. I'm also licensed in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, so I still conduct business there as well with a business partner who has, basically feet on the ground. But most often I'm brought in by the family law attorney who is working with one party or the other in the divorce. And they'll reach out and say, I have this high conflict divorce. They'll give me some details about the case, and they'll ask me if I would be interested in taking taking the sale of the house on. And sometimes it's the marital residence. Other times it's the marital residence and investment properties. I'm finding a lot in the Sarasota area where it's not just one home. It's 3 or 4 or 5 different properties that need to be sold as part of the settlement.
Oh, and so how is it different working in a divorce versus, say, just selling your home?
That's a great question, and it's really an often really misunderstood perspective. Most realtors that take on divorce, especially high conflict, they end up actually hurting the families that they are supposed to be serving for a number of reasons, either for self-serving reasons, conflict of interest. So, they may bring a buyer in to purchase the home, especially if there's a lot of deferred maintenance on the house, and it really is not equipped to be like a market value sale, but a low market value sale where they have investors as clients. And the other thing that happens is they will represent one or both of the divorcing homeowners on the purchase before the close of the marital home. And there's just inherent conflict with all of those different scenarios, because as a certified divorce real estate expert, my only job is to sell that house. And so, if any of those situations arise, I refer, because it's not in the best interest of the parties for me to represent beyond just for the sale of that property.
And crazy, crazy stuff that's happened. People biting you on the home, I see.
Yeah, that happens a lot. It does. For a lot of different reasons. It may be that they're fighting because they don't want the house to be shown. They will not make the house they won't make it available. It's not show ready. It could be that they refuse to accept the recommended list price, and they fight. And sometimes, for the interest of the other party, I will list it, get it on the market. But sometimes the attorneys have to get involved, because if one party is responsible for maintaining the home and paying the bills, and the other party is completely unreasonable with the list price, that can drag on for months or longer. And I have a fiscal responsibility to both of those parties. to sell the house for what the market is dictating at that time.
And can you give me some examples of people on how they've tried to stop you?
Oh yeah. So, I mean, I've had a listing where the in spouse, and I'll call them in spouse and out spouse. So, where the in spouse absolutely refused to allow showings, and at one point she actually moved the sofa in front of the front door, changed the locks, and there just was no way for the showings to occur, because buyers agents were not able to open the doors and be able to get their buyers in. Um, I've also had other listings where the homeowner, the in spouse, would stay for all of the showings and had a list of all of the houses that were better than this house, and would direct the buyers off to other houses, so that and then just go through and talk about all of the things that were wrong with the house, whether it was true or whether it wasn't true, in a way to deter every buyer that came to the house to look at it, to preview it for purchase.
Oh my gosh. And like, what do you do when you get there and someone's doing that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, I've been trained in high conflict. That's where the certification comes in, the education, the experience. That is where all of that comes in. And if it is not something that I am able to mitigate by having conversations with them, the attorneys will need to be brought in, and that's either a phone call, and I generally will make a phone call to that spouse's attorney, so that it doesn't create more additional conflict by involving the other spouse's attorney, to see if we can get some resolution with the spouse's attorney that is doing it. And maybe their attorney can reel them in and get them into some form of reasonable frame of mind, with the threat of what could come from it, whether it's contempt or being removed from the home, which is an extreme case, but that is certainly something that can be forced upon the in-spouse if they continue their shenanigans.
Sometimes people don't keep up the house either, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. So, very often when I go to a listing appointment in the earlier stages, I do take copious notes about what is deferred, because in these circumstances, sometimes it goes on for years. And so, you have the lawn that's 18 inches high. It's grown up over your ankles and weeds. You've got trees and bushes. We had a hurricane here in the late part of September of last year, and I've actually gone to preview homes where there has been extensive damage, and they have tarps on the roof. They have the screen lanai has been completely ripped apart. They have trees that are out of the ground. I mean, any number of things. And, that's where really pricing the property properly and setting realistic expectations with both of the parties and their attorneys comes into play.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. What's the craziest thing someone's done to their house to prevent it from being sold or to lower the value?
Well, I honestly can't say that there's any one thing that I personally have experienced. That where there's absolute, like, just blatant sabotage. I did have one listing where the parties had about 5 cats and at least one ferret, and had birds, and when I was there, I had gone over to right before the photos were taken, and I had paid for staging of the house, and I paid for someone to come in and do cleaning of the house. And these are items that I get reimbursed for at the closing. But the in-spouse would not cooperate with any of my recommendations, but the house reeked of cat pee. Like, it was so bad. And right before I had the photos taken, it was a beautiful home. Right before I had the photos taken, my husband went over with me to change light bulbs over the vanities and just do a few basic maintenance items that were still just kind of loose ends. And we were in the master bathroom, and one of the cats backed up to the tile that was, along the wall and just sprayed the wall. And I was like, Mrs. Seller, your cat just peed on the wall. And, I mean, it's not like it was a surprise because the cat had peed everywhere. And that property actually fell out of contract 3 different times because of different items that had been found. But the last one, they actually brought a black light in, and the cat pee was just everywhere in the house. And like I said, I paid for staging, paid for cleaning, and right after the photos were taken, I went over to actually show the house, and everything the stager had done had been undone. So stuff like that, it happens.
I mean, I remember there was a house here in Orlando that passed all the time. I know it was involved in divorce, and like they kept painting it like purple or pink, and like it was just like, oh my god, I can't imagine that level of frustration. It's so crazy that people do this stuff. And how do you keep your sanity when you're? I mean, because you're always in high conflict situations, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it can be very challenging at times because not only am I dealing with high conflict personalities, I'm dealing often with mental illness, I'm dealing with addiction, I'm dealing with different personality disorders. I mean, I've been called every name in the book. And honestly, I really just cannot take it personally. I have to, I do. I recognize that there is a reason why these people are getting divorced, and I am not the reason for that. I am there because there has been agreement or there's been a court order, and I have been named in one or both of those documents as the person who will sell the house. And I have to really just keep my wits about me and know that this is not about me. It's just it most often the anger and the frustration comes out of fear about where am I going to go. I don't have any money. I've been a stay-at-home mom my entire adult life. I have no money. I have no family nearby. I have no support system. I'm gonna have to pull my kids out of these schools. The house is often the identity of the person. It's a status. It's security, and just being able to recognize that and be empathetic to people. It goes a long way.
So, like, I guess the attorneys call you up usually to take care of this. What triggers that attorney? Is it early on usually, or they know it's going to be a problem and they call you, like, or it's something's going on? How do you get called?
Oh, that is a great question. And it can really range anywhere during the process. And the reality is that the sooner that I am brought into that process, the better the outcome is going to be for everyone. If I had $100 for every person that I have met who has spent 15, 20, $30,000 fighting over the house for years, to only discover at the end that there's no way that they can keep the house. And if they had just brought me in at the very beginning, I have an entire system and a process that I go through to make sure that they're not fighting over something that they can't keep.
And there is a silver lining at the end, isn't there?
There is. For many people, there is some. It's interesting you say that because I actually run kind of like a divorce support group as well, and there are most of the people that come to that support group really want to get beyond the divorce and they want to move past it and heal. But there's some people that just love being in victim mode and they never will get past it. But the reality is that, yes, if you want to get beyond it and get past it, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's life after divorce. And most people are able to recover from that if they choose to do so.
That's great. That's great. I mean, it's hopeful. So it's not all bad, and it's just a tough time for a lot of people. Well, Amanda, this has been fantastic. Tell us a little bit about getting in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. So my mobile number is 603-377-0281. My email is amanda@homeforsalefl.com, and that's home, HOME, the number 4, salefl.com. My web address is the same, homeforsalefl.com with the same. And then I have a number of various ways to reach me on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and so forth.
Love it. Well, awesome. We'll put a link to all that in the show notes. Amanda, thanks so much for telling these stories on True Law Stories.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for taking Amanda on your journey. This has been Iron Garlic and True Law Stories.